look, I'm not going to be up here for long. Just witness this basketball terrorism with me.
Larson's going to face guard Maxey.
Just absolutely disgusting. The 76ers are such a joke of an organization. The fans are fed up, and we're especially fed up with Podcast P. Paul George himself has got to be the worst signing in the process era. Ricky Council is so much better than this dude. When the Sixers were playing the young players, they had energy, they had spunk, and they moved around, they moved the ball. But with Nick Nurse bringing all these old guys back on to the court, Kyle Lowry, Reggie Jackson, Paul George, it just, all the energy gets sucked out of the building. The Sixers, this was just another game where they got out-rebounded by 8,000 points. Not rebounds. I'm crashing out. I'm tweaking. Paul George's basketball terrorism is messing my brain up on so many levels right now. I can't even produce proper English. But the Sixers and their addiction. The Sixers are addicted to players who are over 35 years old, and it is hurting them. They lost this game because they did not embrace any of the youth at all. I know they were gassed. They're on a second half on a back-to-back. But the Sixers, man, Paul George is on my basketball team for the next 4 years when we just got off the Tobias Harris disaster. I'm not going to lie. I tolerated Tobias Harris more than I did Paul George. Because Tobias, at least he tried out there. We knew he had no bag whatsoever. He wasn't worth that max contract. But Paul George is on a different level of garbage. I'm not overreacting at all. You go look at the box score, his box scores, and say, oh, he's averaging 16 points per game. And he's playing great defense too. Bro, he was getting cooked by Jaime Jaquez and Nikola Jovic. They both scored an and one over him. And on the Jaquez one, PG thought it was a good idea to ISO down the court and got blocked and then complained to the ref and got a technical foul. His defense was mid. He's not a good defender at all. He's had his moments, but he's not some all-NBA defender, bro. He's getting paid a max contract. We can't stand this anymore. We just went through 6 years of Tobias Harris, and now we have a guy who puts in less effort. Sixers fans have an internal radar just in our DNA where we can sense when a guy is not putting out 100%, and it's even more infuriating that Paul George seems to care more about his damn podcast and being a freaking Minecraft YouTuber than playing on the Sixers at the highest level. His pinky injury. What? He got his pinky injured and he was out since January 25th, but had to go through such an egregious rehab session and rose up to the occasion, really stepped up for the Sixers in his return with a staggering, amazing 9 points. And one of the most embarrassing performances I have ever seen. I'm done with Paul George. I can't take this anymore. It's so ridiculous how the Sixers have been for years thinking that by surrounding Joel Embiid with 85-year-old players who can't do anything anymore would be a way for them to compete in the NBA. When you see all these other teams, like the Thunder, like the Heat, like the Cavaliers, even the Celtics, they had a young core for years that was able to grow alongside each other, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They embraced youth. And the Sixers, on the other hand, are going for these old guys who cannot produce on the floor anymore. They are decrepit. Paul George, whenever he checks into the game, the energy goes below zero into negative ranges. It is so disgusting watching the Sixers try and operate with Paul George on the court. And PG had a great career, but I got to commend him for how much he fleeced the Sixers team. We really have Paul George for the next 4 years. It's so infuriating how these Sixers fans have been watching this team for years. Throughout the entire process era, we've been hoping every single year that they would finally get it right with the roster construction. And we were behind them too with the moves they made, whether it was trade for James Harden and now getting Paul George. But the decisions they made over and over again were just not adequate enough, and the same stubbornness that has been prolonged within this front office is it's just pathetic. There really aren't enough words to describe how pathetic the Sixers have been as an organization, and the Paul George experience is the epitome of the reason why Joel Embiid can't win a championship here in Philly. If you want to say Sixers fans are overreacting, sure. But a bipolar team produces a bipolar fan base. The Sixers fans are up and down on this team every single night because they are giving us completely different products. One night they're playing with energy. They're playing the young guys and they're playing well. They're having fun playing next to each other. And then when Paul George comes back and Kyle Lowry comes back and Reggie Jackson gets more minutes, it turns into a complete crapshoot because these dudes can't do anything anymore. And Sixers fans are just fed up with it. I am fed up with it, seeing the same exact thing every year, just a different coat of paint. The rebounding, the lack of transition defense, just a horror, just a nightmare that Sixers fans have been unable to escape. Paul George is not going to be traded by the trade deadline. If you're watching this video and the trade deadline already passed and Paul George did get traded, well, consider me a dummy. But there's no way Paul George can be traded. At least with Ben Simmons, he was still young. And there's this narrative going around that the Sixers destroyed his mental health and Ben was playing the victim. With James Harden, at least he was a player who could still produce at a high level. He was giving you 21 points and 10 assists a night. James Harden, in all honesty, should have been extended by the Sixers. Daryl Morey should have never lied to James Harden. Because if you're comparing James Harden to the production of Paul George, it is night and day. James Harden is 12,000 quintillion times better than Paul George ever was for this team. No doubt about it. There's no argument you can make that James Harden was a better fit for this team. But you let him walk. And now you got Podcast P for the next 4 years. Is James Harden washed? Kind of. I mean, he made the All-Star team this year, but he's nowhere near the type of dude that he was in Houston. We know. But the Sixers would have been in a much better spot this year if James Harden was playing because of two things. Because he's a facilitator who can make players better, and he actually plays in games. Paul George is out here sitting in games because he hurt his pinky. And the Sixers are suffering because of the move Daryl Morey made to sign him to a max contract extension. This has got to be the biggest blot on Daryl Morey's entire GM resume because this move will cripple the Sixers for years to come unless some team is desperate enough to try and make a playoff run and compete for a championship and make a swing for Paul George. I am running out of things to say. My voice is almost gone, but we are stuck for the next 4 years. Jimmy Butler got traded to the Golden State Warriors, and the Warriors were one of the only teams interested in getting PG. But we really are entering the dark ages of the Sixers franchise, and it sucks because it has been so volatile. I made a really positive video the last time, but bro, Paul George removed all my positive feelings from this team. You had a great career, PG. Congratulations for fleecing the Sixers, but nobody wants you here anymore, bro. You got to hang it up or at least go play in Atlanta. We'd much rather prefer DeAndre Hunter because he's from Philly and he's a dog and a good 3-and-D wing. That's all I got. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you think I'm delusional, let me know. Help me get engagement. Peace.